I will be reading the text of our communique from the National Executive Council meeting, after which I will entertain questions from the gentlemen of the press. And if you give the go-ahead, I think I'll commence reading of the communique. Thank you very much, sirs. Amas. This is the communique issued at the end of the National Executive Council meeting of the Medical and Dental Consultants Association of Nigeria, held from 19th to 23rd January 2022 at the Multipurpose Hall of Abubakar Tafawa Balewa University Teaching Hospital, Bauchi State, Nigeria. The National Executive Council meeting of the Medical and Dental Consultants Association of Nigeria, held at the Multipurpose Hall of Abubakar Tafawa Balewa University Teaching Hospital, Bauchi State, from Wednesday, 19th of January to Sunday, 23rd January 2022. The theme of the meeting was a health system at the crossroads, challenges of brain drain, medical training, and regulation. And the sub-theme was maintaining a balance between entrepreneurship and ethics in medical practice. The opening ceremony was chaired by Professor Muhammad Ahmad Abdulaziz, the Vice Chancellor, Abubakar Tafawa Balewa University, Bauchi, represented by Professor H. Garba, the Deputy Vice Chancellor, Administration. The chief host was Dr. Yusuf Bara Jibrin, the Chief Medical Director, ATBUTH, Bauchi. Our keynote speaker was Dr. Abubakar Seidu, MBBS, FMCP, Chief Consultant Physician, Consultant Hematologist, and former Chief Medical Director, Federal Teaching Hospital, Gombe. While Professor Isa Sadiq Abubakar, FWACP, FFPH, FRSPH, FRCP, the Director, Center for Infectious Diseases Research at Bayero University, Kano, delivered a paper on the sub-theme. The meeting kicked off with a courtesy visit to the Emir of Bauchi, His Royal Highness Alhaji Dr. Rewan Sulaiman Adamu, CFR, Vice Chancellor, ATBU, Professor Mohammed Ahmad Abdulaziz, Bauchi State Commissioner for Health, Dr. Samaila Dahuwa Kaila, Kachalan Katagon, and the Chief Medical Director, ATBUTH, Bauchi, Dr. Yusuf Bara Jibrin. Observations during the NEC are as follows. 1, that the level of insecurity in the country has remained worrisome, making it nearly impossible to safely use certain road routes across the country. This is despite efforts being made by the government to address the challenge. 2, many recent policies of government appear to target medical professionals and their practice in Nigeria, which adversely impact on quality of healthcare delivery in the country. 3, the recently released circular on review of hazard allowance by the federal government is grossly inadequate to address the multiple risks faced by an average health worker in Nigeria, and further complicates the near-complete erosion of relativity in remuneration that existed among different health workers. 4, the persistent attack on medical and dental postgraduate medical fellowship and discrimination against our members have continued unabated. These unwarranted and unjustifiable attacks have the potential for disrupting medical training in our universities and tertiary hospitals. 5, despite the announcement of government's approval of an upward review of the retirement age for health workers, there has been administrative impediments to its implementation. 6, the process of correcting shortfalls in remuneration of the clinical lecturers has been extremely slow. 7, the mass exodus of medical and dental consultants to more developed countries has brought significant disruption to Nigeria's healthcare ecosystem. Our observation revealed that over 100 consultants have left the services of 17 tertiary health institutions in the last 24 months. 8. Our members have yet to fully explore the area of private medical and dental practices in Nigeria as a catalyst for improvement in healthcare delivery and self-improvement. 9. The harmonious and collaborative relationship that exists between the Abubakar Tafawa Balewa University and Abubakar Tafawa Balewa University Teaching Hospital, Bauchi, particularly the establishment of the Joint Development Committee between both institutions, is highly commendable. 10. Some state governments are owing our members several months' salaries, especially Abia, I think about 23 months, and Ondo states. Consequently, the NEC resolved as follows: that government should intensify efforts at resolving the security challenges in the country once and for all to safeguard the lives and properties of Nigerians. 2. That the government needs to engage critical stakeholders when formulating policies that have direct and indirect impact on the healthcare system of the country. 3. That there is need for immediate review of the recently released circular on hazard allowance by the federal government, which was not in line with the earlier agreement reached during negotiations with our association, with the hope of reflecting current realities and relativity of remuneration among health workers. 4. The persistent attack on medical and dental postgraduate medical fellowship and discrimination against our members will no longer be tolerated, and any institution that does such will be blacklisted. 5. The Federal Ministry of Health, National Council on Establishments, and other relevant agencies should expedite action on the implementation of the upward review of retirement age for health workers. Further delay might result in irreversible damage to the nation's health security from brain drain of experienced and highly skilled health workforce. We demand for the immediate correction and rectification of the shortfalls in remuneration of clinical lecturers across the nation. 7. Government, as a matter of urgency, should put policies in place to arrest the mass exodus of highly skilled medical and dental consultants to developed countries. Such policies must domesticate the pull factors while minimizing push factors that encourage emigration of healthcare professionals. 7. Members are encouraged to consider medical entrepreneurship as a viable and rewarding alternative to improved healthcare delivery in Nigeria. 9. To encourage other institutions to emulate collaborative approach in practice at the Abubakar Tafawa Balewa University and Abubakar Tafawa Balewa University Teaching Hospital, with the establishment of joint development committees between the universities and their affiliated teaching hospitals. Finally, 10. State governments owing our members several months of salaries, namely Abia and Ondo states, and other emoluments are enjoined to pay the arrears of what is owed to medical and dental consultants working in their hospitals and continue payment of their monthly emoluments as at when due. I'll start with the hazard allowance, and to a very large extent you are correct by your observation that the review of the hazard allowance has been done for health workers in general, and that some category are earning about 15,000, some 32,000. But for doctors, what is given across board is about 40,000 naira. This is a far cry from the agreements we have with the government during negotiations, which ranges the hazard allowance for medical doctors from about 34,000 to about 100,000, from the lowest earning doctor to the highest level category in the in the profession. So you can see that this is a far cry from what was discussed and agreed during negotiations with government. So that is our grounds with that document. Second question, medical entrepreneurship. The issue of medical entrepreneurship came up. We'll partly answer one of the other questions as well. We have also observed brain drain with grave concern. Not only because you will find fewer people in their system when some people go, but those fewer people are going to be under a lot of pressure to meet the huge demands that will come upon them. And we may also have our members and other doctors and other health workers, including nurses, becoming really, really under so much stress that those who remain will not only be, the fact that their under-earning is established, their money is a far cry from what people in other countries pay, but they may begin to suffer health consequences of being overworked. The stress will get too much, and we have many beginning to break down physically and mentally. Possible healthcare worker suicide will also go up, because the more you are under stress, the more you are likely to develop all these health consequences. So to address that is what the association at this meeting discussed about expanding the resource opportunity for increasing revenue at an individual level and even as a group for health workers, including doctors, by considering medical entrepreneurship. And several of such entrepreneurship were discussed: group practices, individual practices, telemedicine, getting to receive, to see patients through phone calls, through video calls, embracing the technology also to improve our economy. All these were discussed, but they were discussed within the caveat of the ethics of the profession and also the ethics of the civil service, so that you do not use government time for private practice. That those ethical aspects were highlighted during the meeting. Medical fellowship issues is a perennial issue. It's been on for years and is not going away. And we are concerned, and we keep fighting this, because there's nowhere in the world where the PhD is a universal prescription for people that are lecturers in medicine. Nowhere in the world. So it's a unique Nigerian thing, and it's something that is likely to destroy the basis of the training of medical students. And when you mess up with the basis, then the whatever you are putting superstructure is going to be bad or faulty. So that is why we're insisting that there is no universal prescription for people who are specialist medical doctors who hold fellowships. In the US, they call it board certification. In the UK, it's similar to ours. It's a fellowship of the Royal College of Physicians, Royal College of Surgeons. When they are involved in training younger colleagues in universities, there's no way that there's an insistence on having a PhD as a prerequisite to conduct that level of training. And that is why we're saying we know that it is not good to introduce what is not going to add any value to the training of the students and residents. Then why should we embrace it in Nigeria? Oftentimes we find out that this insistence is purely political. For instance, in LASUT, there was going to be a vice chancellor selection, and because of that, we're going to do something that is going to destroy the basis of a whole training system. I'm sure most doctors will stay away from a vice chancellorship position if that is what it takes to protect the standards of training. But we know there's no way that you need to request for a PhD for you to be a specialist clinical lecturer. And that is why we will keep insisting, no matter how long this takes, we're not going to pause in the interest of the public, so that we will not completely lose the quality that we have in our health system. The fact that countries still find our products attractive is a testimony to the quality that we have despite limited resources. People still come over to employ our young graduates, and our specialists are employed in some countries without any additional training. They go straight into their workforce. That is not done for most countries. So that is a testimony to what we have established by the medical fellowship. So this insistence on PhD is likely to destroy that, and we're not standing for that. Brain drain issues and the suggestion by the Minister of Bonds, not kicked against this. We also think it's a very simplistic solution suggested by the Minister. One, it is simplistic, it is also unfair on a group of professionals trained by the Nigerian system to be bonded, while the rest of you, who are also trained by the university system, are not bonded. And we definitely know that some of you also travel out of the country to ply your trade in better climes. So the suggestion of bonding medical students alone really on many grounds is faulty, because that is not the problem. These young people will not leave if the economy is good. The young people and the older ones will not leave if there are facilities to train with. They will not leave if the remuneration, what they are paid is reasonable, not even equal to what is obtained outside the country. And more importantly, they will not leave if they are employed gainfully. Most of the times, the people leaving really don't have gainful employment, sometimes, those younger ones. And when they are employed, they are underemployed. So that is why people leave. And you cannot address that by bonding someone during university education. What do we have in mind? There are many things that can be done to reduce brain drain. Like I said, one thing, you can improve the condition of service of those who are currently in the system. And that is one of the major outcomes of our meeting. Currently, we have people who will be retiring in the next 2 to 5 years from the system, who are highly skilled, well-trained, and who are supposed to train the new set of people coming up. Unfortunately, most of those younger people residents have emigrated. The medical schools are going to push out, in the next about 30 or so medical schools, are going to push out medical students over the coming years, 1-2 years, who will require training. Now, if we don't act now, those 55 to 60, they are at a decision point in their life, a very critical point in their life, to decide, do I want to retire into the Nigerian unpredictable pension system, or do I want to go abroad for, my retirement plans? And we find out that most of them would opt for going out, as they have been going out more recently. I'm sure you're all aware there was a recruitment exercise in Abuja that had several consultants attending. Those are consultants in that category. And what the government can do as a short-term measure or even medium-term measure at this point is to see through a policy which the government itself has agreed is a reasonable one, which is to increase the retirement age of those group of health workers who are in all our federal medical centers, they're in most specialist centers across the country. Increase their age of retirement from 60 to 70, meaning that these people will stay another 10 years in the system and help train the next batch of medical students that are coming through. If they make that decision to leave, it's often not reversible. But if you give them this option of, you will still be in the system for another 10 years, most people will rather not leave their country. And that is why we're urging the government to seize this opportunity of the next council and establishment to ensure that this policy, which it has adopted, becomes reality, so that we can, save the system of the loss of this very critical manpower that is in the system. So that is one of the things we are proposing to address our current brain drain issue. As you will have seen from the communique, we asked a few of our centers if they've lost any of their consultants to institutions outside the country in the past 24 months. About 17 institutions that we randomly asked have lost over 100 consultants. These are people that took 6 to 8 years to train and who have worked for several years in the institutions, and now they've gone abroad. And training a consultant is not something you can do in a hurry. So the loss that we've made is difficult to quantify, because to get those people, apparently most of them are not coming back, and to train the next generation to that level is going to be a difficult task, especially with the exit of those who are to train them. When people exit from a system like that, the accreditation of the institution training other ones might suffer. So meaning that younger people cannot even come into training in those institutions because of the exit of these ones. So we urgently urge the government to ensure that the Council and Establishment meeting approves the upward review of retirement age of all health workers. And that is to let you know that it's not just the doctors that are critical in the health workforce, but we're also losing nurses, we are losing radiographers. The only ones that may be tempted to stay are the older ones who are in their 50s, but they are looking at retirement in another 1 or 2 years. Tendencies for them to decide to leave if there's no extension of the retirement age. Of course, there are several other things the government could do to reduce brain drain, and that includes increasing the remuneration, the earning power of all health workers. And that includes consultants. We've been in talks with the government over increasing a particular allowance for honorary consultants over the past few months. And the will of effecting this is quite slow, as you will find in our communique. So we're urging government also to adopt the immediate upward review of the salaries and allowances of health workers in Nigeria as a measure to also reduce brain drain. There are several other measures to reduce brain drain: improving facilities, improving training environment. It's also important to reduce the tension amongst health workers currently by adopting international best practices when it comes to relationship between different health workers. What do you use to reduce brain drain? Okay, the members. The question here is about what are we doing to reduce brain drain by our members, and one of them is the outcome of this meeting, that is encouraging alternative pathway for earning some money to cushion the effect of the very hostile economy that we're in right now. So that's one of the ways. And also we encourage collaboration between different institutions as a way of reducing brain drain or the impact of brain drain amongst our members. Insecurity, how are we affected? Everyone is affected by insecurity, not just doctors, but you will also acknowledge that in the past few years, doctors became targets for kidnapping under the wrong assumption that we have the money to pay. For instance, in Rivers State for several years, until recently, it's almost a crime to be a doctor. You will be kidnapped, and a huge ransom will be demanded from the person's family. We've even got to the point of trying to hide ID cards when we travel, because once they say that you're a doctor, the tendency is to think that you can afford a huge ransom. We know that the Nigerian government does not pay doctors that well to be able to afford any ransom, but the criminals don't have this information at all. So we were, for a very good part of the experience of insecurity, targets for kidnappings, targets for attacks by hoodlums and armed robbers and the rest. But we're concerned about security of the country, not just for the doctors, because we cannot operate if there is no security in the country. One of the things driving our colleagues out of the country right now is also the insecurity in different parts of the country. Wherever there's insecurity, people respond by fleeing. So when there's insecurity in the Northeast, quite a number of doctors left the Northeast for abroad or for other safer parts of the country. So the more we have insecurity in the country, the more doctors will leave. And that is why we're concerned about the security situation, and also we're concerned for every Nigerian. It is not good to wake up to news of villages completely destroyed, families burnt, and I mean, these are not news that every normal human being should be waking up to on a daily basis. And that is why we're urging the government to do the needful with regards to security. The question about are we planning to go on strike? The Medical and Dental Consultants Association is an association of the highest level of specialists in the health sector. And among doctors as well, that is the highest cadre that one can aspire for. So you will understand that we're very, how can I put it, relatively conservative and also highly matured group of membership. So the matters of strike rarely comes up in our discussions. Unfortunately, it has become almost the norm that the Nigerian state and the Nigerian government does not respond to constructive engagement in good time, or sometimes none at all, which has pushed several unions to be going on strike repeatedly. Currently, we're not planning to go on strike, but we will not hesitate to go on one if we see no way through these issues that affect not just the welfare of our members, but it's going to have major impact on the life of an average Nigerian. So if nothing is done in the coming weeks to address these major issues, we also cannot guarantee that there will be continued industrial harmony as regards our association. But there are no strike ultimatums at this point. Thank you very much.